My name is Rob Wire. I'm the chairman of Shipwreck Park and was asked to MC this event today. As a flashback, 8 years, 2 months, and 17 days ago, we were returning, many of us in the audience today were returning from deploying the Lady Luck, successfully I might add, offshore. And as we were passing just about parallel to this point here, Tommy DiGiorgio, a very good friend and founding board member of Shipwreck Park, leaned over to me and he said, "Rob, you know, someday we got to do something there." We'll get back to that in a second. So our first speaker has been an ardent supporter and cheerleader for Shipwreck Park for many, many years, and obviously for Wahoo Bay. And without that, this project wouldn't have happened today. In fact, without the total support of the City of Pompano Beach, what you see here behind me would never have taken place. So with that, I'd like to introduce our first speaker, Mayor Rex Harden.
Thank you, Rob. Appreciate that. Thank you for the introduction. And welcome everybody to this wonderful day. I'll tell you what, in Pompano Beach, where else? Come on. Yes, there you go. First, before I start, I just want to introduce some folks that I work with every day to make this city the best it can possibly be. And that's my fellow city commissioners with us today. We've got Commissioner Rhonda Segerson-Eden from District 2. Commissioner Allison Fournier from District 3. Also, we've got our Vice Mayor, Andrea McGee, represents District 1. We're missing a couple of commissioners, but I'm sure they're here in spirit. But also, I'd like to introduce somebody who's really special to me, personal friend, somebody who basically trained me for this job, and that's our former mayor, Lamar Fisher, now County Commissioner. Yes. Of course, with us today, we also have State Representative Chip LaMarca. Thank you, Chip, for being here and for your ardent support of this project and the city overall. Thank you so much. I've got a note sheet here I've got to refer to. Sorry about that. Well, welcome everybody. As Rob said, this is Wahoo Bay. It's a remarkable thing. It's taken years to get here, as he pointed out, but it's well worth it. It was a dream years ago, but through a lot of hard work with a lot of folks involved, not the least of which is, of course, our city administration. I'd like to point out Mr. Greg Harrison, our city manager, with us today. We also have our assistant city manager, Suzette Sybil, Earl Bosworth, Brian Donovan, and you know, this wouldn't happen without a good team working on things, and that's really what it takes to get anything done as a team, and we have got a successful team in the city of Pompano Beach. But with marine conservation at the helm and under the Shipwreck Park 501c3 organization, the concept of Wahoo Bay was born in 2017. Design and permitting followed from 2018 to 2022, and that wasn't because of the city of Pompano Beach, okay? There was a lot of other permitting organizations involved here. Construction commenced in March of 2023, and project was completed May 2024. Previously an underutilized cove with a beautiful view, which it has, Wahoo Bay is now a thriving and innovative marine habitat restoration site. Wahoo Bay is an immersive, interactive, and educational experience offering underwater exploration designed for learning about ocean conservation. Wahoo Bay aims to raise environmental awareness, providing an exciting and unique opportunity for community engagement and community conservation, particularly amongst the next generation, who will likely inherit challenges our environment face in the future. Wahoo Bay will offer outdoor classrooms, kiosks, live events, and interactive spaces designed to engage visitors. The goal is for our visitors to learn about ocean conservation, especially kids, shoreline protection, and the vital role ecosystems like mangroves and artificial reefs play in protecting our shorelines. So it is indeed a labor of love that's taken place here. But like I said, nothing happens without a team, and we have had a lot of folks who have been part of this effort to get this place up and running, from the concept that Rob mentioned, which was just a dream many years ago, riding by in a boat, to what we have today. Our community has proven that we can accomplish anything when we work together towards a common goal. From tackling local community issues to tackling issues affecting our broader South Florida region and other similar communities worldwide. I'd like to recognize just some of the partners who collaborated to make this project a success. Dr. Pat Quinn, Broward County Natural Resources Division, Resilient Environment Department. I'm not sure if she's here, but Pat led the efforts to obtain all the necessary state and federal approvals and permits before handing the project over to the city for actual construction. Bill Gallo from Gallo Hebert Architects for developing the renderings we have all seen, thus giving us a sneak preview of what the finished project would look like. Those renderings raise the level of interest in this project. Florida Fish and Wildlife, their interest and financial support in the Wahoo Bay project. I tell you what, without all these organizations, this wouldn't happen. Mitch Qualman from Qualman Marine, I'm sure most of us sitting here are familiar with that name, for delivering and hoisting each individual Sea Hive unit into place. And if you haven't looked at the actual Sea Hive units that they're deployed in the water, it really is a marvel of engineering. Jeff Terode and his team at the South Florida Diving Headquarters for his support throughout the, yes, Jeff is here. Jeff has been a constant supporter not just of this project, but of course of all of our Shipwreck Park efforts. He was instrumental in Lady Luck and a whole host of things, and still our public art project that takes place every 2 years. And one of our own Pompano Beach team members, Dr. Tammy Good. Tammy's here. Yep, there we go. CIP manager. Tammy and the CIP team were instrumental in carrying this project the final mile, from planning to and executing the construction of what you see here today. Additionally, I'd like to recognize the entire city management team for their tireless efforts, and I mentioned them earlier, but thank you so much, Mr. Harrison. Like I said, without a team, this doesn't happen. And finally, I'd like to recognize and thank Shipwreck Park and its chairman, Rob Wire. As he likes to say, yes, for as he likes to say, herding the cats. The last 7 years bringing this project to fruition, his collaboration with our new friends at the University of Miami, Florida Atlantic University, and the A.D. Henderson School transformed a very simple idea into a one-of-a-kind educational experience, home to our very own micro marine preserve and living laboratory. So thank you so much to Shipwreck Park and all the members. I know we've got Phil Schulte is here. I'm not sure who else from Shipwreck Park, but I'm sure Rob will mention them all. But thank you so much. That's really, it's, you know, it takes a team to get things done. And this project is going to be here long after this team is long gone. It's going to live for generations, and it's critical to help our kids understand what the marine environment is all about. And I don't know if you saw the recent press coverage that we got on the television stations, but you know, bringing kids out here who haven't really been able to touch the water before. They can touch the water, number one, but number two, they can touch the water and actually see what's going on underneath there in a living marine environment, which I tell you what, that bodes well for the future of our ecosystem down here, for having more people understand what it's all about. So thank you. Thank you, Rob. Appreciate it. All your efforts and everyone else. Thank you.
She is a certified scuba diver and very concerned about the health of the environment and our fragile coastal ecosystem. She's a lover of the arts, public art. She's a huge supporter of Wahoo Bay and Shipwreck Park from the very beginning, since we met many, many years ago. At this time, I'd like to introduce District 1 Commissioner, Ms. Andrea McGee, Vice Mayor.
Not quite as tall as Rex. No, I'm so excited to cut this ribbon today. I remember the first introduction to this at the Oceanic event a few years back, and I just thought, wow, what an amazing concept. Let's see if we can pull it off. I was like, full steam ahead, let's just go for it. And yeah, I grew up diving these beaches, snorkeling, and there's nothing that makes you love the ocean and our environment quite like getting in the water, seeing it yourself, and the fact that we can bring out kids and field trips and all sorts of things here and introduce them to a love of the ocean that will last their whole lives is just amazing. And I'm so excited that Pompano, working with Shipwreck Park, was able to be the facility to offer this to the future. I have a bunch of talking points about the specifications of our really amazing Sea Hive system. Within Wahoo Bay, there are 2,000 square feet of artificial reef surface, also known as sea hives, that are styled after beehives. The hexagon structures were stacking and able to stand up to storm surge and really create the crevices and little holes and openings for young marine life, which thrives in the mangrove systems, you know, the baby fish, the baby turtles, these types of things. It'll promote the diverse marine habitat for marine species. It's also a shoreline protection system, which, you know, this is the first one. So it's going to be interesting to see how it works, how it can be implemented other places, where we can shore up our other vulnerable seawalls and shorelines and marine areas. The individual Sea Hive units themselves weigh 2,500 pounds each. And there are over 220 individual units in the Wahoo Bay. Some of them are solid to be support, and it weighs excess of 300 tons. The swim platform was installed to allow easy access for kids and is ADA compliant. and real-time underwater video. It's clear enough you can see it over there. You'll be able to watch it at home, just like the pier camera that Shipwreck Park can put out under the pier, which I know I watch very regularly. It's amazing. But I love everything we've done, and thank you so much to our partners, to the universities that got involved, to everyone who's out here who played any part in this at all, and I just look forward to continuing to watching it grow. So thank you so much.
Okay, so I'm going to try to do 7 years in about 5 minutes, if you'll bear with me, because I think this story is worth telling. I mean, obviously I've lived it, but there's a lot going on here. So Shipwreck Park was initially formed for the purpose of creating putting Pompano Beach on the map as a major South Florida dive destination. And I think we accomplished that goal pretty well with the deployment of Lady Luck in 2016 and the Okinawa in 2017. In fact, the Lady Luck received worldwide attention as we deployed her, and the flotilla of boats that day was absolutely amazing. But in the summer, or the late spring of 2017, before the Okinawa was deployed, we held a kind of a mini retreat here at the Marriott with members of the board, the city team involved, and other stakeholders to talk about what Shipwreck Park really wanted to be when it grew up. We knew that we had a mission, and we knew that that mission, as we codified it, was really about raising the awareness of the need to protect our natural reefs and our fragile coastal resources. And we thought we could best do that by establishing 3 pillars, and those pillars were art, conservation, and education. And every project moving forward needed to meet each of those pillars to be a success in our mind. When we looked at the shipwrecks, we determined that we got art and conservation nailed. As you know, they were whimsical casinos or the dive bar on the Okinawa, and I think we did that very, very well, and Mother Nature has certainly had her way with it, and it's just beautiful out there now. And we got the conservation right by creating all of this artificial structure offshore. But you know what we really missed was the education component. Very few people are able to dive that wreck. I mean, those wrecks, they're too deep, they're not snorkelable, so we're not really telling our story to the masses, to the general public, like we should be through education. So we decided that day that we were going to circle back to that conversation that I had with Tommy 8 years, 2 months, and 17 days ago, and we were going to make Wahoo Bay a reality. So we started that day. We finally deployed the Lady Luck in August, and we held our first meeting with what I like to call the dive dispatch team, members of the county, members of the city, members of our board, and a few other stakeholders, and we trekked up to West Palm Beach to meet with the Florida Department of DEQ, Florida Fish and Wildlife, and the Army Corps of Engineers. And we presented a very sophomoric plan to them, which was 10-foot culverts with mangroves planted on them, end of story. And they loved it because we weren't taking anything from the environment, we were actually improving it. So we walked out of there thinking pretty good, high-fiving, slapping ourselves on the back. But they had mentioned to us that before we could begin the permit process, we need to make sure that we had permission from the entity that owned these submerged lands. Didn't think much about it until we got in the car. Well, we got in the car and found out that these submerged lands were not owned by the state, they were not owned by the city, they were owned by an individual. In fact, a good share of this submerged land out here is not owned by the state of Florida, it's owned by an individual. So we got all you know, I guess, disjointed and angry over the fact, how could that possibly be? We need to alert the state, this has got to get fixed. And we finally decided that the best thing to do was to see if we could get title to that land. And so we started that project. It took us 24 months to make that happen. Unfortunately, that's just what it took. But once we got that done, we were ready to rock and roll. Permits started flowing. We had already conducted surveys here for seagrass, and everything was willing to go, ready to go. But that's when I think kind of divine intervention stepped in, because what was about to happen kind of set us back a little bit farther, as Rex mentioned. It wasn't just all permits. COVID reared her ugly head and kind of ground everything to a halt. Permits stopped, people didn't answer phones, but Zoom came along, and we had a group of stakeholders at the time that were very interested in continuing to talk about this program. And during that time, these stakeholders got us thinking a little bit more broadly than just a water park, than just getting in the water and looking at mangroves and things like that. They got us thinking more about the educational component. They got us thinking about how can we put cameras in the water? How can we build a website to show the world what's going on and to raise the awareness of our mission about shoreline protection and the importance of our natural reefs. So that idea continued to percolate. Although that group of collaborators kind of embered out and died, that mission, that feeling of we needed to do that stayed with us as we continued to go. So we moved on into the permitting process. So in December of let's see, so COVID struck later in 2020, right? Towards as things began to open up, I got a call from Dr. Pat Quinn, who I don't see Pat here today, from Broward County, who the mayor mentioned earlier, and Pat said, "Hey Rob, I just got back from a symposium where I met these guys from the University of Miami who have this very unique wave attenuation system. Would you guys be interested in chatting with them?" We said, "Absolutely." So that's how we got the introduction to the University of Miami. We had our initial conversation, and I think the best way to describe that was you had hello, and there's my friend Dr. Landolph Rhodes Barbarigos in the back from the University of Miami. So at that very thought, we were on board, everything was good. So that's number one. Number two, in 2021, I got a call from Landolph. It said, "Hey Rob, I was just at a symposium, and I met this guy from Florida Atlantic University, Dr. George Slivenitis, and George is doing some things with wireless communication and buoys and things like that. I think this might have application at Shipwreck Park. You want to talk to him?" I said, "Sure." So we met George Slivenitis and began that relationship about how we could begin to incorporate now the science. It's not just the product. It's not just the sea hives and the wave attenuation. Now we're kind of starting to delve into that collaboration that we talked about earlier, the science, the education, and things started to come into focus, although none of us are biologists and none of us are teachers. At least at that point we were. So we bring them on board. Then about the same time, very shortly thereafter, Roy Rogers had lunch with Tommy and I. He said, I've got this relationship with Dr. Kelly at FAU. I'd like to see if I can get an appointment for you guys to talk to him. Well, we did. We got an appointment with Dr. Kelly. We spent about 30 minutes on the phone with him discussing what we hope to have happen at Wahoo Bay. And within 2 weeks, we had a water monitoring station out here at Wahoo Bay that's been collecting data for the last several years. And shortly, I think several months after that, we had our air quality monitoring station. And a couple of months after that, we had our water quality monitoring station. So now we're collecting data. Now we're building this database that people will be able to access from anywhere in the world that can see what's happening with temperature, what's happening with water quality, what's the relationship between tidal flow, how does storms affect water quality. So all of this stuff is beginning to kind of take place in an area completely, out of I'm a casino guy. This is completely out of, our realm of experience. So lastly, Roy Rogers introduced us to a young lady by the name of Katie McDaniels, or Katie, I'm all right. Anyway, Katie. So Katie was a young biologist and had just taken a job at FAU, at A.D. Henderson Lab Schools. And she showed great interest in the project and really kind of drank the Kool-Aid early on. In fact, Tommy and I never realized that Katie did a lot more research on us than we did on her, because she wanted to find out who these guys were before she was going to, hook her line to that star. And I think we proved at the end that we measured up. So Katie, having consumed the Kool-Aid, took that message back to A.D. Henderson and the FAU lab schools, and all of a sudden the lab schools and A.D. Henderson is like over the moon about this project. I think they are as excited about what we're doing here at Wahoo Bay as we are excited about having them as partners. So you can see that there's a little bit, this couldn't have happened on its own. I think there was somebody watching out for us in the last 7 years to make this all happen. And then finally, it was about construction. I met Tammy, I don't know, I think in 2021, maybe a little bit later, as we had a pre-construction meeting here on the site. And she stepped up immediately and took the reins about how we were going to make this thing happen. So from the city's perspective, I can't give a big enough shout out to Tammy and her team. She coordinated the construction of the sea hives. She coordinated the delivery and the actual installation. She also was responsible for speccing the dive platform you see behind me. And more importantly, if you walk out to the end of this dock or on the dive platform, you're going to see a concrete structure on the nose of that platform. She designed that because we knew that we were going to get that wave action coming in the inlet like we just saw earlier this week, and that wall has attenuated the wave action and protected the swim platform from damage. So kind of a novel approach with a bit of a sea hive, but really made it happen. So that's what got us here. And thank you to all of us for making that happen. So I've got a couple people I'd like to thank. I don't know if Roy is here today. I don't see him. But Roy Rogers has been instrumental not only in this project, but with Shipwreck Park. And Roy has been a very, very significant donor to the project. I mean, Roy has written a check that really helped us keep us on track and get us where we were. Keith Engineering, also a big benefactor. But Dodie helped us with early plans about what we should do here to get the park right for the reception of the sea hives. Ron Bergeron and Ali, his wife, for their contribution. And you should know that Ron and Guy Harvey, the Ron Bergeron Foundation and Guy Harvey Foundation are actually working together on sawgrass to seagrass, and I know we'll be collaborating with them in the future. So big thanks to them. Fish AL, they're the ones that do the fish surveys, Tom and Jane Y. They provided their source to us, to FAU, so they could begin to develop fish identification in a live environment, not where you catch them in the water and take a fish. We're going to be able to identify fish as they swim by and tell you what kind of fish it is, whether it's a male or female, and all sorts of things that I don't even understand. Victor Nappy of Chaos Made. I don't think Victor was here today, but Victor's been with us since the very beginning. Victor is responsible for all of that drone footage that you've seen of Wahoo Bay in the past and really made it happen. So big thanks to him. And with that, Katie Hendrickson. I'd like to introduce Katie Hendrickson, Executive Director of Shipwreck Park, Wahoo Bay.
Well, wow, what an honor to be here today, and it is very hot out. So I don't need to tell you. And of course, I think not all of you brought your swimsuits. So I'm going to keep it nice and short. And you've heard about the innovations, you've heard about the partnerships that it took to get us here, but you haven't yet heard quite about the magic, right? And so that's what I want to talk about, because I am lucky enough to be part of the team that gets to be taking the students out into the water and experience it myself. And I hope I don't get teary-eyed. But truly, the space behind us, if you were paying attention to Rob, you might have missed the sea turtle that was swimming right behind. I apologize for that. We should have had an intermission. But truly, from the Pompano Parks, bringing in the public, which has been amazing, to our partnerships with FAU Lab Schools, our online portal, the magic just never ends. It's quite amazing. And so many of you know that the kids that are here in our South Florida region, many of them live within a mile or two of the coastline or go to school within a mile or two of the coastline, and they never have safe access. So Wahoo Bay is one of those places. We have a lot of dive sites, a lot of snorkeling trails, a lot of coastline here in Florida, but there's only one Wahoo Bay. And as you see the kids walk along here, along the shoreline, and only imagine what could be underneath the waterline, the magic turns on as soon as they dip their toes in the water and they start to see all the colors of the fish underneath. That is where the magic happens. Obviously, with our underwater camera, we'll be able to immerse people from all over the world, but really getting them involved in not only this amazing ecosystem, and hopefully stewarding them into their own ability to be part of our community conservation efforts. They thrive in this landscape. From learning how to swim here in open ocean, or maybe they haven't learned how to swim here, but it's their first time out in what we call deep water, so to speak. They are transformed by the time they get back to that swim dock, and they tell me all about the fish that they've seen and what they're gonna do next. So our goal here at Wahoo Bay, aside from having a ton of fun and being able to educate these young people, our goal really is to provide the skills that they need to be the change makers of tomorrow. And with all of your help within the community, we are working towards just that. So we're working on gaining or providing pathways so they can gain those skills, and we're gonna keep them here in the community so that they can strengthen our blue and green economies and really shepherd the next generation into this amazing space. So I know this will just be one small space, but a model for many coastlines, not just here in our area, but around the world. And I can't thank each and every one of you for making this all come true. I'll give it back to Rob.
I'm not so sure she got the full dose of the Kool-Aid yet, but she's getting close. So I think that concludes our formal presentations today. What I'd like to do is ask all of the elected officials to move over to the center here with the ribbon, and we'll do the ribbon cutting.
1, 2, 3. Wahoo!